Hi, and welcome to Jules Voto's Photo Focus. Recently, I received a question on one of my videos that was published last August. And that video was on comparing four 50mm 1.4 lenses. And in that video, I stated that I did not recommend a 1.4 for macro work, either on extension tubes or reversed. And Kyle, a few weeks ago, asked the question on that video, why? Why do I not recommend the 50mm 1.4 lens? And I replied to him that I really didn't know the optical reasons why a 1.4 may not be as good as a 2.0 or a 1.8. But it's something, as long as I've been involved in photography, just about as long as I've been involved, that's something that I understood, that you're not supposed to use the 1.4 in the macro range. So I did a little bit of research, and because I know I read something on that years ago. I'm talking decades ago. I've been doing this a long time. It was sometime in the 70s. So Again, I did a little research, and I found the answer in this book. This was published in 1969, I believe. It's the Nikon F Nikkor Handbook of Photography by Joseph Cooper and Joseph Abbott. And in chapter 6 on macro photography, on close-up photography, page 7, they state, although the 50mm 1.4 lens has advantages in coping with adverse light conditions, in close-up work, the 50mm 2.0 yields better overall results, especially as to flatness of field. Also stated in the Cooper and Abbott book, on page 29 of chapter 6 on macro photography, when the Nikkor 50mm 1.4 or 58mm 1.4 are used at magnifications approaching 1:1 and higher, no satisfactorily sharp image over the whole picture field will be obtained. So I wanted to test this out. So I took a 50mm 2.0 Nikkor lens. This is the K version. This is a multi-coated version, and it is the last version before they went to AI in 1977. And I compared it to a 50mm 1.4 AIS, again, also multi-coated. Using a BR2A reversing ring, okay, and the BR2A, there's a BR2. Which works fine with the older film cameras. The BR2A is recommended for use with autofocus cameras because the BR could possibly damage the autofocus contacts in the camera. So you take this adapter, which has 52mm threads, which screws in to the front of the lens, okay? And that enables you to then mount this lens in reverse to a Nikon body. So I did that. I used the BR2A on the 52.0. I also used it on the 51.4. Just getting back one thing before I forget, in that Cooper and Abbott book, they mention flatness of field. Macro lenses are very flat field, meaning if you focus on, let's say, a postage stamp, okay, and you focus on the center, that it will be sharp out to the edges. Other lenses, non-macro lenses, many other lenses are not exactly flat in that respect. So that if you focus on a flat object, the center may be sharp, but as you work your way away from the center, you're going to lose sharpness, okay? So stopping down, of course, will help that. Now, in these tests that I did, I stopped both lenses down to f11, and I shot at just about 1:1, okay, using the reverse adapter. And what I found was that the 52.0 was far superior as far as flatness of field to the 51.4. The center of the frames were fairly close, but as you went out to the left and to the right, the 52.0 yielded a much better image. Okay? I then wanted to see what would happen if I used the lenses on extension tubes to get to about that 1-to-1 magnification. So I did that. I used a 27.5 millimeter Nikon PK13 extension tube, and also added to that a 20 millimeter tube to give me 47.5 millimeters of extension, which will almost bring you with a 50 millimeter lens to 1-to-1. And basically the same result, although I would say that the 1.4 seemed a little bit better towards the edges than it did in reverse, again, shooting at f11. So I also wanted to see how the 51.4 and the 2.0 would perform not quite at the macro range, in a close-up range, but not at 1-to-1 or beyond 1-to-1. So I just mounted a 12 millimeter extension tube, and what I discovered was the 51.4 performed pretty well, almost as good as the 2.0. I guess I was about 10 inches from the ruler that you see in these images, and I think they were very close, again, shooting at f11. So my conclusion is Cooper and Abbott were right. The 52.0 and most likely a 51.8. I didn't test one. I didn't have one on hand at the moment to test one. But would do better when you get into near or beyond 1-to-1. You're much better off using the 52.0 or the 1.8 and reserve the 1.4 for greater distances. Now, of course, I didn't compare these two lenses to a macro lens. In my experience with the macro, the Nikon 55 and also the 60 millimeter autofocus macro, those are excellent lenses, very flat field, yielding excellent results. So if you have one of those, I would recommend that for your macro work. Or if you're using mirrorless, Nikon has two excellent mirrorless macro lenses, a 105 and a 50 millimeter. Okay, just one other thing I want to add. When focusing in this macro range or beyond, 1-to-1 or beyond, it's much easier to focus using some type of focusing rail, moving the entire assembly of the camera, the extension, the lens back and forth, rather than trying to adjust the focus on the focusing ring on the lens. You're not going to be successful with that. I just had these lenses set to infinity and just move the whole assembly back and forth using the focusing rail. Okay, so I hope this video has proved helpful to those of you who may want to get into macro photography. And to Kyle, I hope it has answered your question. So I normally come out with a new video every Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and tap that bell so you'll be alerted anytime I come out with a new video. Till next time, thank you very much.